Shalom Aleichem. This is Menachem Nissel here in Yerushalayim, the Holy City. It is such a pleasure for me to be speaking on behalf of the Chizuk Missions. This is their project, this is their idea, and anything to do with the Chizuk Missions just inspires me. I've had the honor of teaching these ladies here in Yerushalayim, HaKodesh, watching how their visit to Israel just transforms them, just gives them a new energy to go back and to build their beautiful Jewish homes. Thank you for this tremendous honor. Thank you, Rebbitzin Sarah Wolaski of Baltimore, for believing in me and making sure that I am part of this project. And this particular class will be in memory of Ruchama Chaya Fruma Bas Dov Pinchas, known as Chaya Bistritsky. She is a woman who inspired so many of the Chizuk Mission ladies, and she is sorely missed, and this class should be in her memory, in her schus. I also want to take this opportunity, as always, to thank you, Torah Anytime. To be honest, I think I'm a little angry with Torah Anytime. I'll tell you why I'm angry with you guys, because I'm just picturing in Shemayim when the gezerah of coronavirus was made. So in the heavenly worlds, they're going back and forth. Can we do this to the Jewish people? Put them into their homes for months. How will they survive spiritually? And someone pipes up and says, well, they've got Torah Anytime, so it's not like the end of the world, like duh. And yeah, Hashem says, well, okay, they got Torah Anytime, so I guess they'll survive. Of course, I'm joking, but not really joking, because Torah Anytime has been a source of so much spiritual nourishment for hundreds of thousands of Yidden across the globe. Yeshakayach, thank you for everything we're doing. So, we are now entering into the 6th week of Sephira Omer that is known as the week of Yesod. So once upon a time, it was not considered appropriate to speak about Kabbalistic concepts, to talk about the 7 spheros corresponding to the 7 weeks of Sephira. But we live in a world where everyone talks about these things. It's in the Art Scroll, it's in Mishpacha magazine. It is so mainstream somewhere as I speak. Probably in the kindergarten in Pico Robinson in LA, they're teaching the sephiros to little children. These are the sephiros of your neighborhood, of your neighborhood, of your neighborhood. Well, everyone's talking about it, so let's talk about it and talk about it properly in a way that we can understand it and make it relevant to our lives. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, he created the world with, so to speak, hooks that connect to the higher worlds. And they come down from above, down here, and we try everything we can to try and connect to them and bring it into a solid form here into this world. And there are 7 sephiros, or 7 midos, as they're called, and each one was brought down by another of what's called a shepherd, the 7 royim, the 7 shepherds. Avram brought down chesed, Yitzchak brought down gvura, Yaakov brought down tiferes, Moshe and Aaron is netzach and hod. The 6th one is the midah of Yesod of Yosef HaTzadik, and the 7th climactic one is David HaMelech, the David HaMelech of Malchus. These are the 7 spheros. We talk about them on the 7 ushpizim, the 7 guests that come into our sukkah. And this time of the year, we talk about it a lot, because as we count the sephira, many have the custom, including myself, that after we count, we say a special tefillah, and we insert the appropriate sephira at that point each and every day. And we're now entering Yesod. Yesod literally means foundation. It is the sephira of Yosef HaTzadik. What is it all about, and how is it relevant to our lives? That's what I want to talk about today on a little bit of a deeper level, if that's okay with everyone. Put on your safety belts, because we're going to go very deep in understanding these very vital and important ideas in Chazal and in the Torah and how they apply to our lives. Okay, so we all know that the word habayis was introduced into the Jewish world by a man called Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu, when he came to the place of the future Beis HaMikdash, The Gemara in Pesachim, Daf Pevav, says he looked at this place and he called it a habayis. Avram called it a har. Yitzchak called it a sadeh. The idea of a har is something that sticks out, something noticeable, something different. Sadeh means it's a field, it already has life. Habayis means it's now a home. It is protected from the outside so it can be nourished and it can flourish from within. That is Yaakov Avinu. He is the father of the Jewish home. He has 12 sons. Each one of them comes out perfect. His home is something that is a symbol of Jewish perfection, and it parallels, as we're about to see, the habayis of the Beis Hamikdash. That is the koyach of the habayis, the strength and the power of the habayis introduced into this world by Yaakov Avinu. So what did Yosef Hatzadik come along, and what is the midah of Yesod adding to Yaakov's beautiful midah, called the midah of Emes, the midah of Tiferes, the midah of Neira, as we shall see? What does he add, Yosef, when he creates this thing called Yesod? And the answer is that Yaakov Avinu and Yosef are similar but very different. Yaakov, so to speak, is the motherboard. He is the original habayis. He is the world of perfection. He builds a habayis where everything is normal, everything is protected, everything is the way that it's supposed to be. But what happens if you take a 17-year-old boy away from his parents' home? What happens if you put him into a place called Mitzrayim, which is considered ervas haaretz? It is the lowliest, the most abominable place on the world. It is one big country of spiritual darkness. And you take a Jewish boy, not just any Jewish boy, a 17-year-old boy who the rabbis describe as the most handsome male that the world has ever seen. There are midrashim about how the Egyptian woman would literally kill each other just to be able to see his face. What happens when you put a Jewish boy in such an environment? It's not enough to have a habayis. It has to be a habayis with a yesod, with a foundation that is so strong that all the winds on the outside that are trying to knock this habayis down, they won't be able to, because of the power of the yesod that is the foundation blocks that Yosef introduced into the Jewish home. Nothing on the outside can ever affect it. Yosef's ability to withstand the ultimate test of the outside world trying to break into the Jewish home, his ability to stay strong with the seduction of Potiphar's wife. This woman was the #1 professional to take down Jewish boys. And she failed because Yosef anchored himself into the Jewish home. He was the Yesod of Yaakov Avinu's habayis. And with that, the rabbis tell us, for generations and generations, for 210 years, the Jewish people were in Egypt, and they managed to anchor their homes in kedusha, in holiness. And there wasn't a single case of an Egyptian going into a Jewish home, taking advantage of the Jewish men and the Jewish women in an inappropriate way, except for one, which was a mistaken identity, and the Torah talks about it freely. But besides that one case, for 210 years, the Jewish people stayed strong, and their homes were strong, and their yichus was strong, and their kedusha was strong because of one man, Yosef Hatzadik, his ability to build the habayis with yesodos, with foundations that would stay strong and would be able to withstand any form of test. So now, I want to talk about this a little bit on a more personal level to understand how this applies into our own homes. So first of all, the Jewish home, in my opinion, has never been under attack in all of history. The whole world has reverted back to Mitzrayim. The whole world has instant access to the lowest of the lowest pressures that are trying to break down the Jewish walls and the Jewish homes and to come into our own homes. I'm talking to you on the internet. That's how it is today. We are communicating through this thing called the internet. The internet does not know about walls. It goes seamlessly into every single Jewish home. I read this year a line from the BBC that literally made me shake all over. The BBC says the following words, and I quote, it says, "The internet is today the engine of the world." And the next line was, and you should know that the engine of the internet is, I'm not going to say that word that they use, but is basically to inappropriate sites on the internet. Think about what I just said. The internet today is the engine of the world, and the engine of the internet is things that are inappropriate, things that are the antithesis of everything to do with the world of kedusha. Now, I'm saying these things, but you know with your own heart and soul how true this is. Anyone that's building a Jewish home knows how hard it is. Anyone who's a Rebbe working with high school kids knows how difficult this is. Anyone that works with teens anywhere in this world. One boy says to me, "Rabbi, 3 finger movements and I'm good to go." Those are the words that he used, talking about his ability to have instant access with his phone to whatever he wants inside a Jewish home. How are we going to be able to regain the Jewish home? For that, we need to reconnect to Yosef HaTzadik and his midah of Yesod. Somehow or other, we have to get back to the way it was, despite the fact that we cannot turn the clock back, despite the fact that the internet, for good and for not good, is here to stay. How are we going to reclaim the Jewish home? So the bottom line is that we have to go back to the basics and we have to reconnect to what Yosef taught us. And to do that, I want to share with you a story that happened to me, Menachem Nissel, because I grew up in London in the 70s. And I grew up in what I guess they would call today a modern Orthodox home. I grew up without internet. I mean, God forbid, we didn't have access to anything. But it was a home where I had access to all kinds of things that were typical of growing up in London in the 70s. When I came to yeshiva, I went through the proverbial flip out. And at one point, I decided I wanted to build my own beautiful Jewish home. And I wanted it to be kadosh. And I wanted that every memory from my past, anything I had done in my past, I did not want to bring it into my Jewish home. So I said to myself, let me go to the Gadol Hadar at that time. Then it was a man called Rebbe Yashiv. There were other Gedolim in those days, Rosh Shlomo Zalman, Rosh Shach, the Stipler. But Rebbe Yashiv was someone who you could have easy access. You could talk to him, and he could answer in just a few words, at the deepest level, everything that you needed to know about how to live your life. So I go to Rebbe Yashiv, I pour my heart out. I say, I want to build a Jewish home. I want to build something special. I want to build, and I'm actually talking to you right here in my Jewish home, in the cave, the man cave, as my wife calls it, the cave in my Jewish home where I sit and I teach and I learn. And I said, Rebbe, how do I build a home of Kedusha? What is the key? And he answered me with basically 6 words. Barasi Yetzer Hara, Barasi Teira Tavlin. I created an evil inclination. That evil inclination pervades the whole universe. It is sourced in Mitzrayim, as I mentioned, and today it is found in every corner of the world. Barasi Teira, but I created Teira Tavlin. Tavlin is simply translated as an antidote. We're going to see in a few minutes that the word Tavlin has a much more powerful and deeper translation. But the simple meaning of tavlin is, it is an antidote. What is an antidote? If this world is a Mitzrayim sewer, Torah is the antidote. It is the Drano that cleanses everything. It goes through and turns all the darkness into light. You build a home based on Torah. Torah is brought into the home by the husband. It is built by the wife and protected by the wife to make sure that the children get it into purity. So the combination of a husband and a wife, the husband imitates Avram Avinu, who brings the Torah, in his case, the Torah of Chesed into the home. Sarah Imenu makes sure that it retains its purity. The most famous thing that Sarah ever did was kick out Yishmael. Yishmael cannot stay in the Jewish home because he will negatively affect our son Yitzhak Avinu. Similarly, Yitzhak Avinu builds his Jewish home based on the midah of Gevura, the sephira of Gevura. Comes along Rivka Imenu and says, I will take care of Esav, that he will not be able to affect the holiness of Yaakov Avinu. And similarly, Rachel and Leah, they took Yaakov Avinu's kedusha that he brought into his habayis, and they cleansed it of the negative effects of Lavan and what he stood for, and the sheker that he stood for. That was taken care of by Rachel and Leah. You have a partnership. One brings in the Torah, and the other makes sure that it retains kedusha inside the walls of the Jewish home. That is the simplest understanding of what Rebbe Yashiv came to teach me. Baruch Hashem, I thank Hashem every day that I did find my wife, my wonderful wife, and we were zeicher to build the habayis that I am talking to you from right now. I have to share you that the Jewish home is not what people think. People think that the Jewish home imitates the Beis Hamikdash and the Mishkan back in time. That's the conventional way of thinking. My dear ladies and gentlemen listening, it's not that the Jewish home imitates the Beis Hamikdash and the Mishkan. It's the exact opposite. The Mishkan imitates the Jewish home. The habayis built by the Avos and the Imahos, which is the prototypes of the Jewish home, that was the makar for everything. That was the source of everything. The rabbis teach us that when we built the Mishkan, we needed wood. Where would the wood come from? So one opinion says the wood came from the Ohel of Avram and Sarah. The tent of Avram and Sarah became the foundation block of what would become the future Mishkan. What is a Mishkan? The Mishkan has got two parts. The part that you and I can see and a part that is hidden. The part that you and I can see, well, that has its own shulchan. The holy shulchan in the Mishkan, which had the showbreads, the lechem aponim, that symbolized the Shabbos table, the Yom Tov table that you put inside your home. There's a menorah. The menorah represents two things. It is the husband's Torah that comes into the home, and it's the Shabbos candles and the Yom Tov candles, the lady lights, that pumps kedusha into the home. The keteris, the holy incense, that is also part of the Jewish home. That is the ambience, the atmosphere, the smell of kedusha that is filling up the house. But there's another part of the Jewish home, and that corresponds to the Kodesh Kedushim, the Holy of Holies. What was the Holy of Holies? It had the Aron HaKodesh. On top of the Aron HaKodesh were two kruvim facing each other, male and female. And the rabbis teach us in the holy words of the Zohar, that room is called Cheder HaMitos. It is compared to the Jewish bedroom. And the whole world, when they think of a bedroom, They think of the antithesis of kedusha. They think that is a place where you sleep and you have fun. And we say the exact opposite. We say that the Jewish home has the kedushim. Inside there is the source of all life, the source of all creation, the source of all purity and anything that is truly holy in our lives. That is what the Jewish home is all about. How do we do that? How do we make our home kadosh? The secret ingredient of Barasi Yetzirah, Barasi Torah Tavlin, the Torah creates what's called kedusha, and kedusha is defined by making your home separate and different and distinct from the world around you. So how do we do that? We do that by making sure that once you walk into a Jewish home, nothing from the outside can exist. So we recreate the Garden of Eden. We recreate the world where there was Adam and Chava, Adam and Eve, and nothing else. Not Adam and Eve and Steve and Brenda and Michael and Joanne. No, it's Adam and Eve, nothing else. In your home, everything is kadosh. It's just your family and nothing else exists. It is the kedusha of a male and female coming together, not just in their bodies, but in their minds. Nothing else exists. I have to share you a story about one of my daughters. I'm not going to say her name, but I will tell you that if you've ever seen my book, Rigshi Leif, it's that little girl over here. She's now a mommy of 7 kids. As I'm talking to you, 2 of my grandsons are in the other room. They just came and joined us. Thank you to our doctor that allows them to come. This is something new for us after 2 months without grandkids. This girl, when she was 17, she joined me and my wife for a birthright Shabbaton. It wasn't a regular birthright Shabbaton. It was California kids. It was the beautiful college kids. And they spent Shabbat, Shabbos with us. And when Shabbos was over, everyone got a chance to say, what was the highlight of their weekend? And one girl says, I'm just going to say her name, Chava Nissel. It was Chava. And I'm saying, oh my gosh, what could it possibly be about Chava that was so inspiring to this young girl? And this college kid, she said, when we were going on our Shabbos afternoon walk, I asked Rabbi Nissel's daughter, she's 17, a pretty girl. I said to her, I never met a religious girl before. I don't know anything about you. Tell me, do you have a boyfriend? Chava looks at her and says, nope. And she says, this doesn't make sense. You must have just broken up. And Chava says, nope, I've never, ever had a boyfriend. So she said, okay, so you're just attracted to your own. No. We're not going there. I want, said my daughter, at 17 years old. I don't know how she got to say this. I know she figured this out. But she says, I want that when I get married and I look for the first time into my husband's eyes and he looks into my eyes, I want it to be the first time for both of us. Now, I was flabbergasted. I did not know how my daughter could say these words, but I'm telling you now, she was zocha. She merited to have that. And here in the circles that we live in, it is possible to raise your child separate from the other gender. The only people they will know of the other gender are their siblings and their family members. And when they date for tachlis. And when they find Mr. Right, they wait out until that moment when they're ready to walk into their bias, and then they have absolutely everything. Just yesterday, I had an email exchange with a young girl who's engaged. They just had to postpone the wedding because of what's happening. And she said how hard it is for her in terms of being shomer with her chassan. And I said to her, I'm begging you, hold out. Make the wedding special. Make the bayis special. Make it that you go in with no past. You're building something new. You're building something kaddish. It's worth it. I have to share with you this story. I work in a seminary, and it's called Darchei Bina. There was a girl over there. I gave her my whole kedusha, begin the bayis right speech, and she looks at me and she said to me, Rabbi Nissel, I grew up with boys in my life. These are, some of them are the friends of my parents' friends, the children of my parents' friends. What's the big deal? We grew up together. It's kind of platonic. Shabbos afternoon, they come over, we play backgammon together. What's the big deal? Why do they have to be out of my life? And I said to her, my dear Devorah, I want you to ask yourself the following question. Do you want them at your wedding? And she says, what's the big deal? My husband will get to know these guys. I said, stop and think this through. Like, does this make any sense? Let's imagine it's like a month after your wedding, and there's a knock on the door. Your husband answers the door, and there is one of your old friends. And he comes in and says, hi, my name is Chaim. Who are you? I'm here to hang out with your wife. He says, what? He says, yeah, we used to play backgammon together. Let's just play another game of backgammon. Now, do you think that's normal? And she looked at me and she said, you know what? I don't think it's such a big deal. Just a game of backgammon. I said, Devorah, think through what you're saying. Let's turn the tables round. Imagine it's Shabbos afternoon. You answer the door. A girl is on the other side. Let's just say, for argument's sake, she's a little bit prettier than you. You can smell her perfume. And she says, hi, I've come to play backgammon with your husband. How would you react? So I don't know if I can do this with a camera, but she did a fist and she went like, pooh, bam, into her face. And then she looked at me and says, okay, Rabbi, I get your point. I've got double standards. This is not going to work. When you walk into the home that you're building for the first time, you want that not just in your heart, but in your mind and in your memories. There should be one person, and that's the one that you're building the home with. And thank God for those of us that do have a past. Torah cleanses our brains, and time heals so that the past becomes a past, and then we can build a beautiful future. But once we build our Jewish home, we want to keep it kadosh. We want to keep the walls strong. We want them to have yesodos, foundations from Yosef Atzadik. Let me take you to the deeper level that I think Rabbi Yashiv really, really wanted me to think about. Barasi Yetzer Hara, Barasi Torah, Tavlin. What does the word Tavlin really mean? Ask any Israeli. You go to the shukya. Tavlinim, mazet tavlin. Tavlin are spices. What does it mean? Torah is a spice. So now I'm going to get into trouble now. I'm just going to say it the way it is. No offense to us Ashkenazim, but we don't know what spices are all about. You take an Ashkenazi chicken soup. It's kind of like bland. You got like water, a chicken, a few vegetables, and then we go wild with our Ashkenazi spices, salt, pepper, garlic powder, woohoo. Okay, that's it. That's it. That's what we have. Now, I happen to have been, was it 2 years ago, I was in the home of Raina Simigar. Some of you may know Raina. She wrote the Persian cookbook. She lives in Boston. She has in her kitchen a wall of spices. 50 spices, at least 45, us pale-faced Ashkenazim have never heard of. You give her that Ashkenazi soup, she takes those spices, woo-hoo-hoo-hoo, the magic comes, there is smoke coming out of it. You put it in your mouth, they're on fire. You got to knock it down with water, but boy, does it taste good. It is alive. I want to ask you a simple question. How much do spices add to the volume of a soup? The answer is zero, zilcho, nothing. The magic of spices is that it takes the same spice, it takes the same soup, and it turns it alive. It changes it from one end to the other end. This is the most beautiful and most powerful point of my presentation. Rabbi Yasha was teaching me that when you have a home built on Torah, built on kedusha, the same male-female relationship turns into the most beautiful, most powerful thing. It is a tavlin. The Torah is a tavlin for the marriage. It's not just cleansing the outside. It's taking the same male-female, the same kruvim in the Beis Hamikdash, the same kedushas habayis is the most enjoyable, most exciting, most beautiful thing possible. Whenever I can, I always like to tell over. People don't know this, but Gedolim have the best marriages. Unfortunately, they normally have to die before we find out, and the stories filter out. We find out what goes on behind closed doors. Sometimes you get a glimpse into their homes and see the joy and the laughter they had. I once had a student, she learned in a seminary called MMY, and she went and did chesed. This story it's got to be at least 25 years old. She did chesed in the home of Rav Scheinberg. She said, how awesome was it? I had the schus to help the Rebbetzin in the kitchen. It was me, her, and the Rosh Yeshiva. I saw the home intimately in the way that no one else gets to see. For example, there was once a knock on the door. They were in their 80s. Who's on the other side of the door? Ruchama Shane, the Rebbetzin sister, the author of All for the Boss. She comes in, she looks at Rebbetzin Basi, Rav Steinberg's wife, and says, Basi, it looks like you've got a new dress. Basi goes, yeah, thank you for noticing. It's a very beautiful dress, Basi. At that point then, Rav Steinberg, who's busy learning, he looks up from his learning and he says the following words, a beautiful dress for a beautiful woman. Whoa, okay? This is the intimacy that we never get to see. One of my friends, Chol Hamoed, was in Park Hayarkon, and he rented a boat. Everyone bends these like these little rowing boats. There's like a lake there. There's certain parts of the lake where you can sort of go behind like these tiny islands. And he went behind an island and he saw a famous Rosh Yeshiva, I'm not going to say his name, and his wife. You'd laugh your head off if I told you who he was because they're so straight when you see them. And they were having like a water fight, splashing each other. Now, the point is that these people, from day one, they invested into their marriage. Last year I was in Brooklyn and I spoke for Arnava, an amazing, incredible institution. And the one that took me from my home to Arnava was Reb Zachariah Wallerstein. And we're both talking about the fact that we're sort of empty nesters. I still have a 14-year-old girl in the house, but my only non-married son is in yeshiva, and it feels like we're empty nesters. The Wallersteins are already there. And he made a very powerful point. He says, people have a good marriage. So the second half of your marriage, it's Gan Eden. If you have a lousy marriage, it's the opposite, it's Gehenna. And the way to make a beautiful marriage is you invest from the very beginning to make it special to the exclusion of anything else. Today, I terrorize my seminary girls. I say to them, when you date, keep this in the back of your mind. Most of your marriage, you are going to be a booby and a zeta. It's very easy math. By 25, you want to be married. That means by 50, you want to be a grandmother, approximately, which means by 75, you are going to become already a great-grandmother. Now, stop and think about it. No one plans to die at 75. You want to live another 20, 30 years after that. So that means most of your marriage, you're booby and zeta. That's just the way it goes. So what's it going to be like? Is it going to be special? You want it to be special, you have to invest. Yosef HaTzadik is the key to teaching us how to make things special. So I want to teach you a little bit more about the word Yesod, because a lot of these Kabbalistic concepts come with, so to speak, sister words. So for example, I mentioned earlier that Tiferes and Neira comes together. So in Shemona Esrei, we say, Gadol Gibor Neira. Gadol Gibor Neira, says the Rashba, is Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes. So these words, so to speak, feed off each other. The word Yesod feeds off the word Shalom. So for example, the last bracha in the Shemona Esrei corresponds to Yesod. What does that mean? So you have the last three brachos, Ritzei, Modim, Sim Shalom, that's Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. Yesod is Shalom. You look in that bracha Shalom, and in the middle you'll see the key, Sim Shalom, Teva, Bracha, Chen, Chesed, Berachim, Aleinu, Bal Kol Yisrael Mecha, Barchena B'in Kulan Ke'echad V'ar Panecha. We want to be in your light. You bring the light into the Jewish home, everything becomes Shalom. What is Shalom? I say Shalom Bimraimov. Shalom, real peace, is when you build a home where you can sync together the higher worlds and the lower worlds. That's real Shalom. Real peace is a harmony between physical and spiritual. That means what Yosef taught us. You want Shalom? You build a home where the home is a Migdash Ma'at that is both physical and spiritual in one go. Simplest example is the Shabbos table. What is a Shabbos table? Shabbos is physical. A Shabbos table is nothing without good chalent, chamim for my Sephardic sisters. It's nothing without yummy challah that my wife makes. Oh my gosh, she makes chocolate chip challah. You got to get the recipe. It is incredible. The truth of the matter is, as we get older, her new recipe is called spelt challah. It's good. It's actually delicious. I'm in denial that I'm enjoying it, but it's really healthy. That's it. You got to have the physical pleasures, and then you bring in the divrei Torah and the candles and the zmiros and everything that makes kedusha, so that the Torah is a tavlin. It is a tavlin for the habayis that you're building. There is nothing more pleasurable, nothing more fun, nothing more exciting than kedusha in the home. People think kedusha will become a bunch of holy, disconnected people. No, it's physical pleasure. It's the enjoyment of a yummy, yummy kedusha-filled chalent that's done with a Shabbos table that is infused with kedusha. That's shalom. Shalom bayis. When you come into the home on Friday night and you say Shalom Aleichem, that's shalom. That is coming into the home is the Yesodis are strong. It is the harmony of physical and spiritual. A recent addition that I did not know about, my good friend Reb Zev Rodman, he taught me, he showed me this gra, this Vilna Gaon, that the 7 sephiros correspond to the 7 nevios. For those of you that want the Mari Makom, it is the Vilna Gaon on Megillah, Maseches Megillah, Daf Yud Dalet, that teaches us about the 7 nevios, the 7 prophetesses. So you have, for example, Esther is Malchus. That's pretty easy. Sarah is Chesed. Who is Yesod? Yesod is Chulda. Chulda, very little is known about her. There's one medrash, Pirkei Reb Eliezer, Perek Lamed Gimel, which is the backstory of Chulda. Chulda had a very special marriage. Her husband was a big tzaddik. Her husband ran a chesed machine. And he went out there and he provided water for all the people that were traveling. He was basically running this huge, big, massive chesed machine. He could have worked, I don't know, for the Satmar Rebbe or whatever it is, these big places in America that do chesed for anyone that wants. But Pirkei Reb Eliezer says that it was his wife that got Ruach HaKodesh, not him. Why? Because his wife was paralleling what he was doing, but she was inside the home. So therefore, Ruach HaKodesh, which needs this tznius, this hiddenness, She got it and not him because he was too busy being out there. I'm not exactly sure how this works. The Hulda is the midah of Yesod. Her husband's name was Shalom, or Shulam to be exact. In other words, she was the Rebbitzin of this thing called Shlemus, this thing called Shalom, this thing called harmony between higher and lower worlds, which was anchored by Hulda into her home. That's the true Shalom. You bring everything into your home. And now, let's ask ourselves a very, very simple question. What are we going to do now in the week of Shalom, in the week of Yesod, in the week of Yosef HaTzadik, under this crazy, crazy world called the world of Corona? Hashem says, I want you back in your homes. I don't think we've seen anything like this since the birth of the Jewish people. When the Jewish people were created, it was Seder night. It wasn't enough to be Jewish on Seder night. You had to be in your habayis. The beginning of the Jewish people was in a Jewish home. And I'm hoping Mashiach is coming. So the finale of Jewish history, we're back in our Jewish homes. And here we are, you and I'm talking to you through this internet that we're trying to be Makadosh, we're trying to sanctify. I'm giving you all 3 challenges. And they're kind of simple and obvious. I'm trying to make you focus on this. Number 1, let's focus on our marriages, making sure that our marriages are special. It's our spouse, nothing else exists. Not just in action, but also in our minds. And this should spill out into how we raise our children. Our children should see the kedusha and the shalom bias. And the Stipler used to say, the best chinuch is shalom bias. The best chinuch is when parents see that they look into each other's eyes, like my daughter said, and there's something special how they look into each other's eyes. The children see that no one else exists in our parents' home except for what they have from each other. Inside the Jewish home. The second thing is let's go and do this bedikas chametz into our home and make sure our home is kadosh. So if you have internet, and today we have internet, so let's make sure that the filters are the best filters we have. Whatever we bring into this home, the magazines, the newspapers, ask yourself, is this kedusha? I always tell my students struggle with non-Jewish music and things like that, movies, what have you. If you are into non-Jewish music, and you also say, Baruch Hashem, today, we live in a world where there's so much good Jewish music. Over here, they're playing Yishai Ribo. I love that stuff. Okay, so we have, Baruch Hashem, good stuff to listen to. I always tell my students, make your room and your future Jewish home, make it kadosh. If you have to listen to non-Jewish music, that's why you have the gym. You can listen to Zumba and you can fantasize that you are some Latino dancer. Well, that's why you have your car, you put on the radio. If you want to cheat in your car, but not your home, not the walls of your home. For those of you who can, I want to give you all a challenge. This coming Shabbos, why don't you, in honor of the Shabbos of Yesod, of building the Jewish home, introduce something new into your home? I'm going to say something very simple. A new Shabbos mirror. Look at the zmiros. You know the ones that you like to sing. Find one that you don't sing and say, you know what? Let's make this part of our repertoire. A new Shabbos song. So that in 10 years' time, your kids say, when did we start singing this? During the coronavirus. We did it Shabbos, Parshas, Yesod, whatever is Bahar B'chukosai. And make the walls of your house hear that new song. The walls of your house, the bias with the Yesodos that Yosef gave us, should absorb kedusha. Trust me, your walls contain every single word spoken. every single laughter and every single enjoyment that you have, but also every dvar Torah and every zmira that you have. The walls of your habayis, that is your Mishkan. A third thing, and a final message for your Jewish home. When this whole thing is over with, and Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, it should end positively. We should go into a new stage in Jewish history that brings the Melech HaMashiach. Make yourself a promise that you're going to start bringing guests into your home, and they should see and they should share in the kedusha, in the beautiful, beautiful Yesodistic home that you've built. Make your home a home of chesed as well. Kedusha with chesed. Kedusha with kirah v'chaikim, if you are capable of doing that in your home. I have to share with you a story that I just recently heard, and it's about my family. My uncle, some of you may know him, especially if you're from Baltimore. His name was Gershon Frankel. We called him by his children, Genga Frankel. He died this year. Just by chance, I'm thinking about him because my cousin, Mordechai Frankel, Rabbi Heinemann's co-worker, he can't say Kaddish, so I'm saying Kaddish for my uncle. And I reminded myself of the story he told me. The home that they had in London during the war years, in Highfield Avenue in Golders Green, was a home that was steeped in chesed. He told me that every single corner of the house was filled with people from the kinder transports, children that didn't have homes, and they were staying in the home that my grandparents, Rebecca and Abish Frankel of Germany, of Leipzig, that they built in London. They got out just 1 month before the war began. They moved to London. They built this home of chesed. During the Blitz, Golders Green had one bomb. It landed in Princess Park Avenue. And that bomb came with its own miracle because that home in Princess Park Avenue, the child was in the garden and saw the bomb coming down, this German bomb. And he screamed and told his parents and his family, look what I can see, look what, and everyone came out and it flattened the house. Now, Princess Park Avenue is just a few hundred yards away from Highfield Avenue, where my aunt, Tante Ethel from Switzerland, but she was then a young teenage girl. She was lying in bed sick. And at that moment, when the bomb landed, Kadosh Baruch Hu did such an incredible miracle. At that moment was the only time that day that she moved her body to go to the bathroom. And during those few seconds, she came back and she saw that her bed, the wall had sort of collapsed onto it, filled with glass. If she would have been in that bed, chas v'shalom, the worst would have happened. Today, my Tante Ethel, she's also in Shemayim with my mother and all her other siblings. But her legacy is that Baruch Hashem, she has children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, hundreds and hundreds of progeny in Zurich in Switzerland and here in Yerushalayim, in Mattisdorf and Kirabels. It's just incredible what she's built. And all because she grew up in a home that was steeped in Kedusha and steeped in Chesed. So let's go over the three things. Yesodis of habayis is number one, the foundation block is you and your spouse. The second is that the walls have shalom, be filled with all the beauty of real kedusha. Ba'ar panecha, the light of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. To do that, the technology is out, and the beautiful Hamish food and Hamish zmiras are in. Take upon yourself a new zmira for your Shabbos table. And thirdly, when things come back to normal again, your home should be a beacon of light to the outside world through the chesed and the kirov and all the other beautiful things that you do from your beautiful home. And then your little home is no longer a little home. It really is a mikdash ma'at. It really is a microcosm of the Beis HaMikdash. It really is that your home is Kodesh with Kodesh Kedushim as well. It has its roots in Yaakov, who is the Eish, and Yosef, the Lahava, that teaches us that wherever you may be in Galus, you can always have Yesod, you can have these foundations. In your home, in my home, in all the thousands of Hamish beautiful homes of Klal Yisrael should fuse together and become that great home that will be able to once and for all bring down the Shekhinah in its entirety forever. And the Oisei Shalom B'Mreimav will become complete with the Shleimus that the Gula will bring, the Ezer Hashem B'Mher V'Yameinu. Thank you, and I wish you all just health and bracha and atzlacha and shalom, shalom of Yesod. And together we should be able to be this Shavuos in Yerushalayim Ir HaKadosh, in the Ir Shechubra LaYachtav, that is Kula Yerushalayim, Kula, the world of Yira and Shleimus of Yesod. We should be Zeicha to have this year, Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach. Amen. Thank you.